Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for following the channel and following the updates that we bring you on this channel. We are trying as much as we can to keep you updated on the events that are happening around Uganda post-sham election as we speak today. Museveni is the first person who has organized a rigged election and actually lost it, because there are so many things that he has failed to answer, and what he has decided to do is to ram himself through the entire electoral process and declare himself with fabricated results. When you try to ask many questions, these people do not have answers. There is no one you can ask these questions. They all just run away and keep quiet. We keep asking, where did these people actually get the results? They don't have an answer to all those questions. There is no one that you can contact in the Electoral Commission. There is no one you can contact, anywhere to ask these questions. But all these things were actually expected. And that's why Bobi Wine actually ran this campaign in order to expose Museveni and his cronies, as you have seen. All of a sudden now, the entire world knows who Museveni really is, what he has been doing, and also the entire world knows the plight of Bobi Wine and the plight of the people of Uganda in the fight for democracy, in the fight for the rule of law and justice. Now, there are some things I've been, taking a look at. This something that I talked about yesterday that did not add up according to my own observations and my own investigations. And when I spoke about that thing yesterday briefly, most of you actually asked me to come and push it out in a much more clearer way than the way I put it out. Clearly that most of you actually wanted me to explain more on what I was trying to mean. My observations, some of you might agree, some of you might disagree, but definitely I believe that I am right on this. I would like to know your comments on the matter, and you can just drop the comments down in the section below. So I'll make this quick. I'll just share my screen over here and I show you what I'm trying to mean. Now, the figures that you see on the screen over there, those figures are figures of elections, in terms of elections and how Ugandans have been voting, in the previous elections, the way numbers have been increasing and decreasing and things of that sort. So far, since Museveni came to power in 1986, we have had 6 presidential elections. We had the presidential election from 1996 to 2021, the previous one that has just ended, that has exposed Museveni all of a sudden. Now, I've tabulated this data here to show you the number of registered voters, the number of new voters, the turnout, and the difference between the turnouts in different years. And the reason as to why I'm showing you all this is to show you that actually things do not add up and things do not actually make sense, given the current situation we are in and how Bobi Wine ran his campaign. Now, if you look at 1996, we had 8,492,154 voters, and the new voters during that year was 8,492,154, because that was the first year that we began choosing presidents, the first year of presidential elections in Uganda under Museveni. Now, the turnout during that year was 6,163,678 voters that turned out to vote. That is one of the highest, actually, which, if it's not the highest, it's the highest number of turnout that we have ever had in our election. Just under 2 million people did not turn out to vote during that election. So, of course, here, having a difference, we cannot compare it with any other year, but that's why I would leave that space blank over there. Now, when you go to 2001, we had 10,775,830 voters. And out of those voters, we shall we shall subtract the number of voters in 2001 as well as the number of voters in 1986. And when you get the difference between these two figures, it gives you the number of voters for that particular year. So the number of voters the number of new voters in 2001 is 2,283,682,000 voters. So those were the new voters in 2001 from the previous voters in 1986. Now, the turnout was 7,576,144 voters that turned out to vote, meaning that the number of voters in 1996 and the number of voters in 2001 increased. But we have to know it increased by what figure. So it increased by 1,412,466 voters. So it means 1,412,466 voters more voted in 2001. Now we come to 2006, okay? The number of voters that year decreased. It was 10,450,788, the number of registered voters, compared to 2001, whereby it was 10,775,836 voters. So what this means is this, that it decreased, but by what figure? So it decreased by 325,048 voters. And when we look at the turnout, also the turnout decreased in 2006. Of course, this is attributed to so many factors. Now, in 2006, the number of people who came to vote was 7,230,456 voters, meaning that 345,688 people less actually voted in 2006 compared to 2001. Which was really a low turnout of people compared to the number of people who were registered and compared to the previous year in 2001. Move forward on 2011, the number of voters increased, which was 13,954,129 people that were registered to vote. Out of those people, if you get the difference between 2006 and between 2011 and 2006, it means that 3.5,003,341 people were new voters were registered. Now, the turnout, the number of people who came out to actually vote was 8,272,760 voters, meaning that the difference between the number of people who voted in 2011 and 2006 increased by 1,042,304 voters. So 1 million more people voted compared to the previous election. 2016, 15 million voters, 15,277,198 voters registered to vote. And out of those, if you get the difference between 2016 and 2011, you will find that 1,323,069 people more registered to vote in the elections. Now, in those elections, the turnout was 10,329,131 voters who turned out to vote. Now, when you look at the figure of the people who turned out to vote in 2016, and you find the difference, how many more people actually how many more people voted, meaning that the number of people who voted, more people actually voted in 2016, which is 2,056,372 more people actually voted. Now, that is very interesting, because when we come to this year, 2021, 18 million people registered to vote, which means that 2,826,405 more voters registered to vote. And for that matter, what it means that the Electoral Commission says that the turnout was 10,359,479 people who turned out to vote according to their data. Now, when you get this figure and find the difference between 2021 and 2016 to get the number of how many more voters actually voted in this election, this is what is very, very heartbreaking, that only 30,348 more people actually voted. This is it. Because 2016 was 10,329,131 people voted, right? Here. In 2021, 10,359,479 people voted there. Ladies and gentlemen, how do you explain that? That just only 30,348 more people voted in 2021, given the number of voters had increased by 2,826,405 voters, being the the highest number of new voters since 2011. And the last time we had such a high amount of people turning out to vote, we had over 1 million people turning out to vote. Sorry, we had over 1 million new votes that were cast. The last time we had a figure that is close to that, we had over 1.4 million people turning out to vote. And all this, you can see there was just 10 million. This is 10 million and this is 13 million. But here we had 18 million voters. Where are the votes? Where did the Electoral Commission get the results that they were reading? Because look, if there were 18 million voters, the list here would be 2 million more votes, or 3 million more voters would have been unaccounted for. 2 million or 3 million more voters. But you cannot tell me that only 30,348 more people voted. So between 2016 and 2021, you mean only 30,000 more people voted? Bobi Wine, of course, has been running a campaign telling people to get their national IDs, telling people to go and register to vote, telling people to turn out to vote and protect their vote. People have been excited to vote. People turned out in big numbers. This was confirmed by the chairman of the Electoral Commission that really the turnout was so big. Even Bobi Wine confirmed that the turnout was really big. Even people on ground ascertained and said that everyone voted on ground. Almost everyone voted. So many people voted. Where are the 3 million votes? Where are the votes? Because if you do not fabricate these results, we want to explain to us why is it that this is the lowest number of new voters that we have ever received in our elections. Number one, in comparison with having a very high number of registered voters. This is the very first time that we have had a low turnout in regards with the number of registered voters. What it also means is this is the lowest turnout of voters ever since we started almost having elections, percentage-wise. Because this was, 57%? The lowest had been in 2011, which was 59% in relation to the number of registered voters. So here, this is where we have the Electoral Commission. This is where we are exposing the Electoral Commission and their sham election. Only 3 theories can explain why we have such a figure. Number one, the Electoral Commission was not reading the figures that the number, or they were not reading the votes that were cast on the January the 14th, 2021. The figures that were being read were figures of 2016. That is why when they asked the Electoral Commission to tell them where are you getting these figures from, they had no explanation. They were only giving percentages and also giving cumulative figures, saying that, oh, Museveni now has 1 million, Bobi Wine now has 2 million, this one has 5 million, then Bobi Wine has 6 million. That is how they were computing their results. But they could not tell you, because Uganda doesn't have very many districts. We have 146 districts. They wouldn't say that, okay, Museveni has 1 million votes from such and such and such districts. They wouldn't mention that. They would only say that Museveni has 1 million votes. Why? They wouldn't say that Bobi Wine has these votes from such and such regions. No. Just like you can see that, okay, when results are coming in and you are releasing batches, you are supposed to show that, okay, this batch comes from this region, this comes from this region. They did not explain that. Secondly, they were not explaining how they were receiving results with the internet blockade and blackout. No one was explaining how they were receiving these results. How did you receive the results? Tell us. That's what we want to know. So if you do not have answers to all such kind of questions, what you do is you fabricate and concoct results. But the bad thing about mathematics is if at all you try to lie in maths, even anyone who has never gone to school or who has a failure in mathematics can always come out and see that things do not add up. Meaning that the people are in the Electoral Commission, they have a math problem, and that's why they cannot pull off a heist where they are trying to rig the victory of Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, the president-elect now. There is no way you can explain such kind of thing. That only 30,000 more people voted in 2021, and yet we had close to 3 million more people registering to vote, and only 30,000, meaning that out of the 2.8 million people who registered to vote, the new voters, only 30,000 of those people registered. What are the odds? There is nothing that can explain this. With the enthusiasm, with the lots of the enthusiasm that people had to go and cast their vote. Where are the votes? If you ask these questions to the Electoral Commission, they are going to run away. Everyone, they will be bouncing you and telling you, okay, no, you speak to this one, speak to that one, speak to this one, speak to that one. When they were asked to provide the districts, the results from the districts and polling stations, they couldn't provide them. We shouldn't give them breathing time, because what they are going to do now is to go back and now start concocting results, and more contradictions are going to come out. That is what is going to happen, because most of us are now following your figures. Whatever you put out there, we are following the figures, because things just don't add up at all. That is why you see whenever they were releasing these results, they were always contradicting themselves. The percentages were not matching, the votes were not matching, and so on and so forth. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the data there. Tell me what you think. If you have any questions to explain about these issues, just drop it in the comments below and I'll be able to explain to you. I'll be letting you know about the updates that are coming on here and there, and then we shall see what is happening, and then I'll be informing you on the new updates, because so much information is coming in, and then we need to keep track. But also, let us not take our eye off these guys, because when we close our eyes and not pay attention to most of the things that are going on, that is when they are trying to cover their tracks. We shouldn't let them cover their tracks. We should make it hard for them to cover their tracks, as well as fighting on other battlefronts. Let us Ugandans should protect their victory. The people power, NUP, and all the supporters of Bobby Wine, we should stand up and protect our victory, because the victory is being rigged and is being taken away from us. So thank you very much for listening. Subscribe, share the video. I'll be coming back with more updates on what is going on.